What is going on, everyone? Today we're going to be going over the Pitt update notes for today, September 13th. We just had a very sizable update come through, hit consoles, PC, and all that. Some highlights for the update: we have Responders Reborn. We'll be revisiting the Responders, or at least they'll be revisiting Appalachia. Charge Up and Take Flight will be able to take off and revisit the Pit, as we are heading into the Pit. And as we are wrapping up missions over there, we'll be able to earn stamps, claim rewards by completing those missions. And then, of course, we do get Season 10, City of Steel, the new scoreboard that we're going to be chipping away at over time for this season. But going straight into the Pit, saying introducing expeditions and the Pit. We're introducing the expedition system, which will take you and up to 3 other teammates beyond the reaches of Appalachia for the first time in order to complete challenging and repeatable missions. While anyone can participate in an expedition, we are currently recommending reaching level 50 plus for the best experience. So real quick, we recently had a dev Q&A around QuakeCon. One of my other videos, I went over that content with the community. I kind of paused the video and made different comments. One of the devs did mention that anybody can jump in. If you are a lower level, you may have issues with ammo or resources, but you would still be able to at least step foot in there, maybe be carried, things like that. Personally, I'll take the maybe more of an unpopular opinion. I wish that the Pit and other things maybe had a little bit of a level cap, or not a level cap per se, but a requirement to go in, similar to how other games might do content like this. But nonetheless, everybody can jump in and run it. But if you do struggle when you go in, if you are not that level 50 or higher, you may want to revisit. But the Responders are back. With more and more people returning to Appalachia, some have discovered the Responders of days past and decided to take up their mantle and missions to provide aid to anyone in need. This is a new generation of Responders, and they've set up a base operation inside the White Springs Resort and named it the White Spring Refuge, which is kind of cool because when you start the game, you're kind of following in the footsteps, or let's say tales of ghost past from the Responders. A lot of that stuff, especially in the first couple towns you might make it to, even something like Flatwoods, you might see a lot of trail of their history, and now we'll actually be able to talk to some of the newer generations of Responders. But they now have the White Spring Refuge, and it's saying the Responders have managed to find and restore a vertibird. With your help, they're hoping to use it to expand their efforts to distant settlements across the wasteland. So right now we only have the ability to go to the Pit, but this is also because whether it's the Responders taking us to different areas in the future, or if other factions also manage to get their hands on a vertibird, if the Responders can get it, you would imagine the Brotherhood of Steel, maybe Modus, convinces somebody to get one for the Enclave, things like that. So we'll keep an eye on how that system gets developed into the future. And then it's also saying, visit the White Spring Resort and start the Responders Reborn quest, which will introduce you to many of the noble souls who make up the new Responders. Looking forward to that. We'll get some more, let's say, background story for these characters and see what they're doing here in Appalachia. And it's saying along the way, you'll learn about Responders' goals, earn their trust, and gain access to lead expeditions using their vertibird, I should say. I believe it's 3 missions. I think there's maybe a couple of consistent ones. We'll read on that shortly, and we'll be sure to jump into the game and test it out for ourselves. Saying charge up and take flight. To kick off an expedition, you'll need to make the vertibird flight ready by charging its ultrasight battery cell, or ultracell. Unfortunately, the ultracell charge is in short supply, and the Responders keep theirs tightly rationed. After completing the Responders Reborn quest, you can visit the White Spring Refuge every day automatically to start 3 different Refuge daily quests. And in exchange for your help, the Responders will grant you 25% ultracell charge for completing certain Refuge daily quests and 50% charge for others. Complete all 3 of your quests for the day. You'll earn enough to charge the vertebrate's battery up to 100%, which will enable you to lead an expedition. And if I'm understanding this correctly, let's say you and 3 others could share kind of the ability to go back to the pit, as long as you're swapping who's leading. So if it's myself and 3 others, I can run the first one, then we kind of rotate between person B, C, and D. At least that's the way I'm understanding it right now, giving you the ability to go back 4 times within your group. And then, let's see. You can hold a maximum of 100% Ultra Cell Charge at any time, and all of it will be consumed when you start a new expedition. Got it. And you can also visit the Pip-Boy to figure out how much your charge is at. It's saying, please note, you can currently complete refuge dailies and lead an expedition once per day. However, you can join expeditions led by others as often as you would like. Yeah, so there you go. Basically, as long as somebody else has the ability to go, you can tag along. I'm curious to see how that whole system is going to go. And they've also added an expeditions team. I'm curious. I want to see how that's going to turn out. And they are talking about the missions to the pit. And they're mentioning how the fanatic raiders, and there's members of the Union under siege. And you're going to have to work on helping them reclaim the territory. Interesting, okay. So it's saying, first 2 missions, Union Dues and From Ashes to Fire, will take you deep into the heart of the conflict in the pit to bolster the Union's efforts, save their people from the raiders' cruelty, and sabotage the fanatics' plans at every turn. They have these 2 different missions. Again, Union Dues and From Ashes to Fire. Fanatic raiders have overtaken the foundry, a steel mill that the Union has been using as a stronghold and home base. As you touch down the pit, you'll rendezvous with Hex, a leader of one of the Union local chapters. Hex will share details with you about how to sabotage the Fanatics' operations, so the Union can take steps towards reclaiming the foundry. That's Union Dues. And then we have Ashes to Fire. Get in contact with, is it Danilo? Who will send you on a rescue mission to Sanctum. There, ruthless fanatics have imprisoned and enslaved many members of the Union. Prepare an escape path for captive Union members, free as many of them as you can, and raise mayhem within Sanctum to hit the fanatics where it hurts. I'm actually looking forward to that one more so than the other. Once you fully charge the vertebrate battery, open the map, select the expeditions icon, and move left or right to choose which mission you'd like to start. As you play through a mission, you'll receive 3 randomized objectives, which will help keep your experiences from, feeling fresh from one playthrough to the next. Again, during the dev Q&A, they spoke about how they have this modular system, and I want to say they start off with 9 different objectives you can possibly go into. So then choosing 3 of the 9 should help the kind of rotation and make everything feel fresh. Again, during that dev Q&A, my kind of take on this system is really good, because when we started with Daily Ops was just one thing. We just had uplink, and it took us a while to get decryption. And in between Daily Ops getting 2 different modes, we also got different events to pop up as well. We have different combinations of mutations. We have different combinations of, let's say, the enemies you can encounter in there. They've kind of expanded that. I'm curious to see if they'll expand that even further. So let's see what that turns into. But again, 3 randomized objectives from potentially 9, and they can continue to expand upon that. Let's see what that turns out to be. Saying, in addition, you'll receive optional objectives that you can complete along the way. The more optional objectives you and your teammates complete, the better your rewards will be at the end of the mission. So still seems like it would be worth, marking everything off on the checklist. There's definitely a lot of things to really keep an eye out for. And it says, don't worry if you need to step away from the game in the middle of a mission, because the objectives are checkpointed. Even if you close the game, you'll be able to pick up where you left off the next time you log in. I think that was a big concern too. Kind of like a daily ops thing where, let's just say you were doing daily ops solo, theoretically. If you made progress up to 99% of the way and for some reason you maybe got kicked or something too, or halfway through you had to step out, something happened and you got kicked out, maybe you couldn't rejoin. If you're in a team, then you should be able to rejoin as long as the team doesn't complete it without you. But when it comes to instance situations, you may not be able to return to it. And then those that remember the vault raids when they first came out prior to daily ops, if you got kicked from one of those instances, yeah, good luck kind of getting back in. So it kind of almost reminds me of like any worries you might have had, at least for something like that. They kind of tackled, and now it gives you the ability to not rush to make sure you complete something with, under 8 minutes, or without even giving you a time limit, giving you time to explore, take all the time you need to complete missions, and then comb through to see exactly the environment and other things you're stepping foot into. Alright, reap your rewards. Every time you finish a mission, you earn up to 5 legendary items based on how many primary and optional objectives you and your team completed. That's great. I'm going to be trying to get as much as I can, because you'll also receive 1 legendary module with a chance to earn a second, which is kind of cool. Some legendary script or treasury notes, loot, and XP. That sounds awesome so far. Once per week, you'll earn a random item from the pool of rare expedition theme rewards by completing all optional objectives during a mission. They are mentioning an issue discovered just before the patch day. The weekly rare reward will not be available initially following today's maintenance, and then they'll fix that within the next couple days, which is good to know. And then rare rewards can include mods for the auto axe, the Union power armor, new outfits, pit themed furnishings for your camp, and more. And then, so this is exciting real quick. You will not earn duplicate items from the rare expeditions reward pool. Once you have learned the plan for one of these rewards, it can no longer drop as your weekly reward for completing a mission. So now, me personally, any rewards that I get, I am not going to learn. I don't imagine it would give me the same reward over and over and over again until I learn it, similar to, like, let's say a Fashnachtstein. That's something that you would get regardless until you learn it, and then you would stop. It's kind of like running daily ops, where you wind up running daily ops, then you just keep getting the Vault 94 stash box over and over again. So the ability to not get that sounds good, but I guess it depends too. If some of those plans are pretty valuable, you may want to farm them out. So for me, I don't think I'm going to learn everything right away. I'll just collect them, put them aside, maybe run it on multiple characters, and then learn it on the other character just to see what it looks like. So we'll see. The weekly rare expedition rewards timer was set for all players, and it says noon Eastern every Tuesday. So okay, that's good to know. We have basically Tuesday is going to have everything reset. It's going to be consistent. It's not like we're resetting on Fridays or something. With your rival expeditions, we're also introducing a new in-game currency called stamps, and then all expedition participants will earn stamps every time they complete a mission, and completing additional or optional objectives will increase the number of stamps they receive. The expedition leader will earn a few extra stamps due to the effort required to complete the refuge daily quest and charge up the vertebrates battery. Okay, so that's good too. So if you do wind up, let's say, making like a pickup group or something, you just go into your public teams, you make an expedition team, you're ready to go, you wait until 3 others join, you get the missions complete, you are getting a little bit extra, which is kind of nice. It says, bring your stamps to Giuseppe, a new vendor inside the White Spring Refuge, to exchange them for specific rare expedition rewards that you'd like to add to your collection. Awesome. Take a road trip to the City of Steel during Season 10. So I'm going to kind of go through this one a little bit more briefly. We just wrapped up Season 9. For Season 9, I hit 176 in the scoreboard. Last season before that, I hit 165. With last season, though, we were given the Fallout First kind of up to 25% boost. Going into the season, I wondered if I hit 165 the previous season, if I went in with the same amount of, let's say, effort, how much would I get based off of that 25%? Well, it's not a true 25%. Basically, I hit 165 maybe a week or two earlier. So for me and my efforts, it was the equivalent of just getting a couple extra weeks to level up, but a couple extra weeks also means more atoms, modules, and other resources, so that was good to grind. But we are looking at Season 10, the City of Steel, and it's saying, of course, you get a host of new rewards. Now we have stamps thrown into the rewards too, so you're going to see other rewards, I guess, a little bit more diluted, as we're going to be looking to collect stamps to put those towards new rewards. And it's saying, unlock new gear as you rank up. For the first time ever, you unlock the ability to craft brand new items, like weapons and power armor, as you rank up on the City of Steel scoreboard. And then it says, here are the new items. They mention the auto axe, the Union power armor, and they say, during Season 10, the auto axe and Union power armor can only be earned by ranking up on the scoreboard. Once Season 10 concludes, we plan to add them to Giuseppe's inventory. That way, new players, right, that's what I imagine it's going to be aimed at, or anybody that misses it along the way, this season will still be able to unlock them in future using stamps. So that's pretty good. I hope they continue to add that into like a theme. So like, let's just say Sam at Foundation. Maybe other things can be added to his inventory for future scoreboards, depending if it's more related to other factions, or just maybe, dare I say, another NPC similar to Minerva, that we can start cycling things out. Us as a community, we've had the discussion and conversations of, okay, so certain seasonal events, maybe we need to start cycling out, let's say, the first couple years of Foshnot masks, leave the last so many, let's say, renditions of masks that they've added, and then put some of the first so many masks maybe in a vendor, and then, I mean, let's just say it's not stamps, but maybe there's some currency that you could use, and then you can cycle things out for those that didn't get an opportunity to run it, let's say when they first appear, but then still keep those events fresh for those that have been running it into the ground since its first launch, kind of deal. So we'll see. I think all this is pretty good, and we'll see if those themes continue in later updates. So we have additional design changes and improvements, and there's a few things that the devs had mentioned that we would be getting in this update, and then even in future updates that I'm very excited for. But first off, in Appalachia, our ability to fast travel is going to be changing. For certain points of interest, like the White Springs Resort, Rusty Pick, Crater, Foundation, or Fort Atlas, now we can decide whether we want to fast travel directly inside to the location or its exterior. So if you just want to visit the Rusty Pick, you don't have to fast travel outside, you know, run 20 feet in front of you and then go inside again to hit another loading screen. Nice little quality of life update right there. And speaking of the Purveyor, players can now purchase up to 100 legendary modules and up to 500 Vault Steel at once from the Purveyor. I didn't know they were going to do this. I feel like I was just talking about this yesterday, mentioning how when I go to pick up Vault Steel, I'm pretty sure you can only pick up like 5 Vault Steel, and now I'm looking at this 500 going, that's a crazy increase. If you wanted to get, I don't know, you wanted to make solar armor. Solar armor might cost you, like, let's say 13 Vault Steel, depending on the piece, maybe. So that means you have to hop 3 servers just to make one. Now, with 500 Vault Steel at once, that's insane to me. So that's great. You get a ton of that. Legendary modules being increased, again, means you don't have to hop servers to refresh the inventory, and you can reroll all your stuff that you want. Very excited for this. It's also saying the White Spring Resort, a legendary exchange machine and gold press machine are now available inside of the Artisan's Corner in the White Spring Mall. So that's awesome. Kind of like a one-stop shop for just about everything now. I'm curious to know if they'll add anything else. Items. Automatic melee weapons. Legendary versions of auto melee weapons like the chainsaw, ripper, drill, etc. can now be crafted at weapons workbenches, and they can drop as a legendary loot from events, quests, and legendary enemies. I didn't know that. So drills now can be legendary, chainsaws can be legendary, and rippers. I imagine rippers make the most sense because they've also been in other games to that degree. The drill and the chainsaw I find kind of funny. Now I gotta look for a bloodied, I don't even know. Would it be faster swing speed chainsaw, something like that? We'll see. They talk about starting gear. With today's update, we've included some adjustments to have starting experience for dwellers who are taking their first steps out of Vault 76. The following changes should help players feel more prepared as they begin their journey into Appalachia. This is kind of cool. New dwellers will now receive the following items as they exit Vault 76. They get a 10 mil pistol, 200 ammo, which is very generous, one combat knife, some light leather torso armor, a small backpack, which is great. Players will still need to find and learn the plan in order to craft a small backpack. Good, good. Variety of consumables, aid and meds, all that looks like perfect. And then it says, in addition, they will now receive the Vault Fed buff, which will prevent hunger and thirst from increasing for 2 hours. It's interesting because we've been recently speaking on how the early game grind for new players has increased a lot more than, let's say, mid game to end game players. I would say, I mean, everybody gets an update to a degree, but a lot more of the not single player, but like newer players to the game jumping into their kind of experience on their own. It's more of a single player experience. I forget which update it was, but it literally made the ability for somebody under 50 to fast travel at a lower cost, which at the end of the day is really good for a lot of new players to also, let's say, accumulate their resources and not be spending it as much, especially something like this. You're walking out with 200 ammo to get you started. Yeah, that'll be more than enough. Instead of struggling to pick up every stick to whack whatever rad roach and other things you might run across. And then finally, the resistance of damage for many creatures in the level 1 to 15 range have been reduced, which should help smooth out early combat. Again, it's basically like, hey, check out the game. And as your first couple of hours might be the most confusing, as you try to pick up the pieces of story and jump into maybe the Wayward questline, it seems like hunting down certain resources might not be at the forefront of your objectives anymore. At least for a bit. That'll hold you over. They do have a list of bug fixes. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'll make sure that the patch notes are provided, so if you want to check them out in detail, you can. I will go through and point out maybe things like some exploits. Let's see. Address an exploit that could allow the player to have 2 active camps at once. Interesting. I've never seen that one. Different structures, wallpapers, some things at the camp are being fixed. Good to know. Challenges. Dailies and weeklies are being adjusted as well. Let's see. When it comes to events and quests, what do we have to look forward to? Kind of scrolling through. How about this? How about the ones that we run a good amount? AWOL armaments. Interacting with a Sergeant Gutsy while it's already speaking no longer interrupts its dialogue or causes it to replay. Okay, good to know. Heart of the Swamp. Objectives now appear correctly in the quest tracker if the Grafton monster spawns as a boss. Noted. Line in the Sand. Quest targets no longer appear on the Scorch Beast that spawn. Okay, got it. One Violent Night. Event failure fanfare now correctly appears when the players do not complete the objective before the timer expires. And the optional objective to defeat the Night Stalker barehanded can now be completed while unarmed, as well as while using power armor. I think one of the challenges was it to fight it barefist while using a clown costume, something like that. I feel like one of the challenges was something like that. Alright, Rad Rumble. Let's see what we got. Marion Copeland will now ignore combat until the players initiate the event. and enemies start spawning. Great. There's been a handful of Rad Rumbles that we ran into, unfortunately, where you go to speak to her and she's basically stuck in combat with the turrets. Anytime that I've gone in there, she might be behind cover. She'll pop out of cover, shoot at the turret with her 10mm pistol, and then you cannot start the event, unfortunately. I haven't had that pop up recently, but we also haven't really had a ton of Rad Rumbles popping up. So that's good to know. It also says Marion Copeland now uses a consistent weapon during the event, instead of sometimes swapping to unarmed combat. I've never seen Marion just put down the gun and then just take out the fists. Like, what? What else we got? Test Your Metal addressed an issue in which Grimbots could clip through the western wall of the Rust Eagle Arena and leave the event area. Okay, no, didn't see that. The Golden Eyebot no longer occasionally becomes stuck when trying to enter or exit the Rust Eagle Arena. Okay, perfect. And again, there's other things that I'm kind of skimming through, so if you want to know what else is fixed, be sure to check out the notes yourself. In terms of other updates, items, weapons, and other things were, let's say, worked on. I'll go through some of the, let's say, weapon notes, and I guess the mods as well. For mods, it's saying the extra limb damage weapon mod now correctly adds 25 increased damage to limbs. And the extra chance to cripple weapon mod effect now correctly adds 20% chance, to instantly cripple. Good to know. For weapons, the dual bar mod for the chainsaw now correctly increases the weapon's damage. And it's saying for weapons, fixed an issue that caused charging weapons to deal less damage than intended when they were not fully charged. Let's see. A few other things here in regards to hunting rifles, lever actions, flamers, 10mm SMGs, and a few other things. So if any of those weapons impact you, there you go. And last, but definitely not least in the weapon pile, the Gatling Laser, the Gatling Plasma, and the Ultrasight Gatling Laser can no longer spawn with the Quad Legendary attribute. So it's funny because I've been collecting Quad miniguns, Quad Gatling guns, Quad 50 cals, and I think that's basically it. That in my mind I'm like, oh, these may get put into the legacy category. I personally don't use the Gatling lasers, the Gatling plasmas, Ultrasight Gatling lasers. So I don't think I have any of those. If anybody still has those, well, congrats, you now have a legacy. I imagine those values will only go up in time. So double check if you have any of those, especially for sale. Pull them out of your vendor while you can. Which also, again, in my mind means, hey, down the road, maybe miniguns, maybe Gatling guns, maybe 50 cals. If you have quad and it says 999 on the ammo, maybe they're going to pull it, you never know. I feel like for a Gatling gun though, the fire rate is so slow that the ability to have 999 is almost like irrelevant or unneeded. Whereas like a minigun, I guess you can fly through the ammo quicker. The 50 cal not as fast, but we'll see. Perk cards, Electric Absorption. The description of the Electric Absorption legendary perk now correctly communicates that it heals the player in addition to its other effects. So I feel like we thought that was a bug for the longest time, and it was like, yeah, I don't know why, but it heals you if you have this, and if you also have like dodgy and ricochet, that would also seem to like proc electric absorption, I think, something like that. In any case, Glowsight, the Glowsight perk now correctly applies bonus damage to glowing Wendigo spawns during a colossal problem public event. I never even thought of turning that perk card on. Next time, if we do decide to run an Earl, I'm going to put that perk on, get a little bit more extra DPS as I'm collecting screws and other things from the Wendigos. Alright, then we have user interface. Character levels that are 4 and 5 digits long now displayed correctly on the map, as well in social, team, and play menus. Noted. Let's just say there's a few people in the community that are over 1,000. And the irony would be that a lot of times when you go to the map, it would say they were 1,023. Of course, 23 being the lucky number. Ironically, There's people that are like 1156 and it would still say that you're only 1023 for whatever reason. So now we'll have the normal numbers again. Crafting on PC, the bulk crafting slider now correctly closes after using the crafting menu buttons at the bottom of the screen. Good to know. Loading screens, event details now displayed correctly on loading screens when joining a public event. Main menu, fixed an issue that could cause the in-game message of the day and news screen to appear blank for those who play on console. So there's also a couple other updates here between the map, notifications, and Pip-Boy. Be sure to check that out. And then Scoreboard, fix an issue that can cause the standard rank 100 reward to appear incorrect for players who claimed the Fallout first 100 reward first. Interesting. Didn't know that was causing issues, so that's good to know. And last but not least, World Dropsite V9, entering the pre-placed set of power armor at Dropsite V9 no longer causes a brief control lock. Then we got our miscellaneous and pathing things saying, you know, corrected multiple locations throughout Appalachia where attempting to use a pre-placed furniture could result in a brief control lock. I've had that happen at camps. And then pathing addressed several locations throughout Appalachia where the player could become stuck. I'm surprised. Maybe I overlooked it. Is there not a note here that says improve server stability or, you know, fix things where people crash? Alright, a lot of notes, a lot of good information here. I do hope everybody found kind of the dive into the notes insightful for those that have been jumping into the game. A lot of this is very welcomed. And again, looking at the highlights, we have the responders revisiting. So we're expanding the NPCs and factions within Appalachia. We'll see what that turns into for future factions revisiting. Charge up and take flight. Again, I was noting earlier that the responders have their own vertibird. We now have the ability to travel outside of Appalachia, like they're saying head into the pit. Who knows what we'll head into in the future, and we'll see if other factions do get their hands on a vertibird and have their own, let's say, plans, whether they're up to no good or not. We may get involved, and of course, with all the new content, we are getting new rewards. We're getting the stamps, all the new plans, camp things, and other goodies we can get from completing those missions in the pit. And of course, Season 10. New scoreboard, a bunch of new things to grind. A lot of good content. Alright, I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to be personally diving into this as soon as I can. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the game as well. We'll be on the game throughout the week. During the week you can catch me on Twitch. I'll make sure all the links are available. And if you are checking out this video, definitely let me know what you're looking forward to. What other goodies you may be trying to collect immediately, whether it's the Auto X, maybe some power armor skins and other things. But yeah, again, hope you enjoyed. Keep an eye out for other 76 related content, some other content and highlights related to our shenanigans and adventures throughout the week. And as always, take it easy, everybody.